Thank you. Thank you for being here today. There's a lot of reasons not to be here today. We got the storm of the century, literally, right on our doorstep. And a lot of people, rightfully so, needed to go take care of their families, get on an early flight. And so I'm grateful that each of you stayed here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share with you. So we're all here for a reason. A lot of us are here to figure out how to make more money, but you have to ask yourself why. Why do we want to make more money? So you can have a nicer car, so you can have a jet, so you can make an impact. I think most of us, especially you who are here to hear me talk, are here to really feel into that third reason why. A lot of people are already wealthy here. You know, quick background with me, I'm a co-founder of a company that was originally called Bridge Loan Capital. We did short-term hard money lending many, many years ago. John Pennington and I started that. It morphed into a company called the Rock Fund Real Estate Opportunity Capital. We had massive money under management, teamed up with a group that did property management, and morphed into what is known as Bridge Investment Group Partners. And I retired in 2017 with just under $20 billion in assets under management. I'm going to touch on creating wealth, because that's why you're here. I'm just going to touch on it. And, you know, if I had a whole hour or two, I'd go into depth about how to create a multi-billion-dollar investment fund. But I'm going to touch mostly today on creating a global impact. So how many people here in the room have seen the movie Sound of Freedom? Okay, we got about half of the room here. Last year, we were the #1 independent film in the world. Grossing. Now, the beautiful thing about that is not the numbers. We invested roughly $14 million into the film and did almost $300 million in the box office. The thing that excites me the most is over 70 million people went to see that film, and hundreds of millions of people are in a position today where they've learned things to keep their children safe. And my dear wife Vanessa and I have traveled the world, and governments everywhere are opening their doors, allowing us to go in and show them what needs to happen to keep their children safe. I truly believe that already, within the last year of that movie coming out, that millions upon millions of children are in a better place today because of the fact that we were able to create that global impact. That's powerful. Now, for I'm a strong Christian. In the Bible, there's a story about the Good Samaritan. Guess what? The Good Samaritan wasn't broke. Okay, he wasn't broke. You want to make a difference? Figure out how to make money. But if you make money on the backs of others, people say, well, you know, the best time to make money is when there's blood in the streets. You know, a Rothschild said that. I'm not entirely in agreement with that. The best way to make money is when there's blood in the streets, but not because of making money with all of the travesty that's going on. I like to make money when there's blood on the streets by creating first aid kits, knowing that there's going to be people in a difficult position. So right before the 2008 crisis, when all of our statistics were telling us that the sky was going to fall in, we got in a very strong position. Not a strong position to take advantage of people, but a strong position to create massive value when everything fell apart. We were one of the first funds in the country to be on a top-level purchasing platform with all of the GSEs, Freddie, Fannie, HUD, FDIC, so that when a bank had 30 days to live and a bank president realizes 30 days from now he not only doesn't have a job, but the shareholders have a big fat zero, we were there. And before that even happened, we created a team that could take those mismanaged assets. Because, you know, a bank taking back a large apartment complex had no idea what to do with it, right? So these properties had 4-foot weeds, they had grass that was growing, they had, you know, the roofs that were falling apart. So we had a powerful team with a 20-year track record that knew how to manage that type of asset and create added value. But it wasn't just added value there. I truly believe that you can make massive wealth in a true win-win-win-win scenario. There is nobody that has to lose. In that scenario, even the bank president won. Why? Because now he had enough liquidity he could keep in business. Yes, they had to take a little bit of a haircut. Our employees win because when everybody was losing jobs in that 2008 crisis, we were hiring. We were hiring in droves. Our investors won. That first year, we had like a 48% return. Over a 15-year period, a 23.2% net return to our investors. Why? Because we created a true win-win-win. Even the tenants, we were buying B-class multifamily properties. We were getting put gold towel rods in these B-class properties, right? But we put ourselves in the shoes of our tenants and say, what do they really need? How can we make a powerful, positive impact in their lives? And we realized that the majority of our tenants were Hispanic. We were in what we called the smile states, coming in from immigration and whatnot. And so we brought in the bookmobile, English as a second language program. Hell, we brought in the Taco Tuesdays, right? And we had tennis courts that had big old weeds in them, and nobody was playing tennis. So we took down the nets and put down some little soccer field things and created soccer leagues. We even went in and found out that a lot of our intake areas had these massive opulent offices. And we said, hey, general manager, we love you, but you don't need an office this big. Why? Because we're going to create a tutoring area with tutors that come in after school that are not only teaching language but helping these kids, right? Creating a true win, not a scumlord, but a true landlord that can create value. We'd take properties that were 60% occupied, go in and put real value there, take it up to 97% occupied, and get a double on our equity from our investors in less than 2 or 3 years. Because we were thinking true win-win-win. So as you're creating your businesses, as you're building your funds, find a way to create a true win-win, whatever it is. And you can do this in every industry. The problem that most of us have today is that our economics teachers lied to us, okay? You know what they said? They said that the study of economics is the study of the division of scarce resources. Okay? It's created a mindset of a dog-eat-dog, where I have to hurt somebody else to be able to get ahead. We need to change that mindset and understand that we truly live in a world of abundance. That you can think outside the box and create value. In fact, you go back 1,000 years and you talk to an astrologer and you ask them, what's the definition of astrology? What do you do? They're going to tell you, well, as an astrologer, I study how the stars and the sun and the planets revolve around the earth. The very definition of what they did precluded them from understanding the truth that the earth wasn't the center of the universe. Today, the definition in some schools of thought of economics preclude them from understanding the truth that we don't live in a world of scarcity. Okay? Once you understand that we can literally create anything in our minds, every one of us today, I don't care if it's your kids that are just in their first brand new apartment. If they've got carpet and a refrigerator and a microwave, they're living better than kings did 1,000 years ago, right? Massive wealth is created because of that ingenuity. In fact, a friend of mine, Paul Hutchinson, wrote a book called Unlimited Wealth. And he was one of my mentors when I was a kid, and a lot of my philosophies on money and creating wealth came from conversations with him. He was on the cover of he was featured in over 100 magazines. He was the youngest vice president of Citigroup, like at 22 years old. He was the VP of economics for the Bush and Reagan administrations. Brilliant, brilliant man. And he told me a story. He said, imagine there's 10 men on an island, 10 families on an island. And every day, those 10 families, the men of the island, they go out and they start fishing. And they get enough fish just to feed the entire island. And then their 2 wives that are more creative than them and wanted to figure out a better way for them to do their fishing, right, come up with this beautiful idea of this net. And now their 2 husbands are able to go out and catch enough fish for the entire island, which is great. Now, what do we have? We have 80% unemployment, right? 8 guys don't have a job anymore. So a dysfunctional system would tax those 2 men 80% of their fish, and those guys would just sit around and do nothing. A well-functioning economy, one of those guys would get better at building boats, one would get better at building huts, one would get better at educating the children, and lifestyle as a whole would increase because of the creativity and the ingenuity of those two women who created that net, okay? Today, we live in a world of massive transformation, massive. And we talked about it so much today. We had so many people talking about AI and all of the technology and whatnot. Yes, it's going to create massive displacement. Understand, those are guys with a net, right? And it creates massive opportunity for the rest of us to think outside the box and say, how can we build better huts? How can we build better boats? How can we educate the children better? Lifestyle as a whole for the entire world is going to increase with this technological advancements that we're seeing today. Okay? So that's my touch. I can go for hours on economics and creating value and building companies. Now I want to step into making an impact, a massive impact. Every one of you have something you're passionate about. Some of you have got a relative that died of breast cancer. Some of you have been to Africa and have seen the poverty there and the hunger there, and you're hugely involved in that. Some of your kids have been on little service missions around the world, and they've come back with this passion. Every one of us have something we're passionate about. Now, back up, when I was in my early 20s, I had a mentor, and he said, Paul, he said, some of the wealthiest families in the world have a philosophy that's very different from the average millionaire. He said, the average person donates about 2% of their money to charity. So you think about what you earned last year. You know, if you earned $1 million, $20,000 to charity. If you earned $100,000, $2,000 to charity, that's the average across the board. Now, sadly, millionaires in this country donate a little bit less than 2%. It's incredibly frustrating to me and everybody who really has a passion for making an impact. My mentor told me this. He said, Paul, if you make a decision today that for the rest of your life, a minimum of 10% of everything you bring in, minimum 10%, you know, and this talks about this in a lot of different religious doctrines as well. This isn't a religious principle. This is a what I call a universal law, where if we choose to make a powerful impact in the lives of others and the world around us, then literally the windows of heaven will open and there won't be room enough to receive it. I have seen it in my life over and over again. And so he told me, he said, Paul, don't just donate 5%, 10%. He said, make a decision today that number is upwards of 15 or 20%. Now, I was earning $2,000 a month at the time. 20% is a lot of money. You know, I have to live on $1,600 a month. You know, I told him this. I said, wouldn't it be better if I just put that extra money right now and reinvested it in my company? Because if I did that, my company would grow faster, right? Why just give it away? I told him I wanted to be successful so I could be charitable. I didn't realize that I should be charitable so that I could be successful. He said, make that decision today that you're going to donate upwards of 20% of your income to making a difference in the world around you, and you'll be amazed at how fast your companies grow. Now, how does somebody become a partner, let alone a founder, of a multi-billion dollar company? You're not a University of Utah dropout, okay? The statistical probability of me being where I am is 0. Yes, I'm a University of Utah dropout, right? The only way that I can understand it is that I made that decision in my early 20s to give until it hurts, to make a powerful, positive impact in the lives of others. Now, at the time, I didn't know how to make that. You know, I literally would take my extra money and I'd drive downtown and I'd stop at the red lights with guys with the signs, you know, I need some money, and I'd give it to them. You know, I had a friend in the car with me, and he says, Paul, do you think that's really helping? Or do you think they're going to use it on drugs? And I said, I don't know, and I can't judge. Because I don't know if that couldn't have been me if I wasn't born in a healthy home, if I wasn't given the opportunities that I had. Now, unfortunately, over time, as I really looked into it, I was contributing to the problem by just giving it in that way. And so I made the hard decision that I was going to focus my money and my charitable time on making a difference in the lives of the truly innocent, of children. I donated time on many different charities, raised money for different charity organizations. tens of millions of dollars over my lifetime, or even more. I was 7 years on the board of directors for Make-A-Wish in our region. Beautiful, lovely organization helping children with life-threatening illnesses. I was the incoming chairman in our area for Make-A-Wish when I got a phone call. That phone call was from our Attorney General. And he said, Paul, he said, I know you've dedicated your life to making an impact in the lives of children. And your success, is proof of that principle, that the windows of heaven open up and beautiful things happen when you do so. He said, I need to talk to you about something that's really dark. He said, it's the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, and good people don't even know that it's happening. He was talking about human trafficking. He said, there's more today than all 300 years of the transatlantic slave trade put together, and good people don't know that it's even still a thing. And he started talking about child trafficking. Now, this was beyond my scope of any. I had seen the worst of the worst. I had seen parents losing their kids to cancer. I had been to Africa and seen children with flies on their face and the incredible poverty that's there. But I could not imagine having a child being sold in a brothel. I thought, how is this a thing anywhere on this planet? How is humanity to the point where that's a thing, let alone tens of millions of children in horrible positions? And so I said, well, tell me more. And he told me about this Homeland Security agent who was in Colombia that had found like 20 children in Cartagena. He said the government wouldn't give him the money to help rescue these kids because he couldn't prove that there was any Americans there. And it doesn't matter what nationality these kids are, they're kids, right? He needed some money to help make that happen, so I put some people together and we did that. And then a few weeks later, I got a phone call from that agent. And he said, Paul, I'm in Cartagena. There's not just 20 children here, there's more than 50. And there's more than 100 children that are tied to similar rings in different areas of the country that we've identified right now. He said, if we take down one ring, the others will get scared and they'll go into hiding. We've got to figure out a way to take down all of them on the same day at the same time. And I think we can do it, but I need your help. And I said, well, how much do you need? Ego Paul was there thinking I need to write a big check. He said, I need you. Can you be in Colombia in 2 days? He said, the head trafficker has a piece of property he wants to develop into a child brothel sex resort, a Jeffrey Epstein Island type of a thing. He needs a few $1 million to make it happen. He believes he can make tens of millions of dollars a year selling children to wealthy Americans. I said, well, what do you need me for? He said, well, he has connections with all the other traffickers. And somehow we need to get him to call them all and get them to bring their children all together on the same day at the same time. We believe he'll make those calls. If he thinks that the only way that you're going to fund his resort is if he can prove to you that he has the inventory to make it successful. They had already identified that inventory. And 2 days later, I'm face to face with the darkest people I've ever encountered. Well, since that time, a lot darker ones. I'll tell you more about that in a second. But I'm sitting there at this table with these guys, negotiating this deal. One of them leans forward. He goes, Pablo, I have a gift for you. I said, really, what's your gift? And he hands me his phone, and there's a picture of an 11-year-old girl on his phone. He said, this is Princess. She's still a virgin. We just took delivery of some. She's my gift for you for this party. Start talking about these horrible things that we could do to this child. And I thought, oh my God, if we could get these children out before they're ever abused in the first place, that would be a miracle. And something he said made me realize he had more than her. I said, Fuego, I said, you just took delivery? You have more like her? He goes, oh yeah, I called him 0 kilometer. He's got, I got more 0 kilometer miles. sickening that he was talking about them like commodities. I said, you're going to bring them all to my party, right? I told him, listen, I got some buddies coming down in another week. You bring everybody that you have. If we're happy, I'll fund your deal. I said, you're bringing those ones too, right? He goes, oh no. He says, they're too expensive. I said, too expensive? I'm already paying this guy $25,000 for this party. I'm paying him $500 per child for a minimum of 50 children just for 2 hours in the afternoon. He goes, Jefe, which is boss. He goes, Jefe, you already paid $25,000. You want to be with that one, it'll be $2,000, maybe $5,000 for that little one. It's going to cost you maybe $10,000 more. Now at this time, no acting involved. I was legitimately pissed. I've got a $50,000 watch on. I've got a suit that costs more than my first car, right? I'm playing this role of this playboy that could fund this thing. I put my hands on my chest and I said, you don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? He's like, oh, no, Jefe, no. I said, I want every one of those children at my party. And don't touch them. They better still have 0 kilometers or the entire thing is off. Done, right? He goes, oh, yeah, Jefe, I understand, the stupid smile on his face. Now, in the movie, if you saw the Sound of Freedom, we took 8 different child rescue missions and put them all together into one storyline. There are a lot of operators who are still in operation, who are doing rescues, who we didn't feature in the movie. We had to put them all together in just a handful of actors. And in the movie, my part in that Colombia rescue was depicted by the producer, Eduardo Verástegui. He was the wealthy, guy that Jim Caviezel's like, hey, if I can convince Pablo, I can make this work. Pablo was the multi-billion-dollar fund manager who quits his job to go help rescue kids. And in the movie, I said, no, I don't want to go. It's way too dangerous, whatever else. And it wasn't until they gave this picture to my driver, and that driver gives that picture to my character, that I look at that picture of that child. And it convinced me to make everything happen to be down there and help rescue those kids. In real life, I was already there. I was face to face with these guys, and it was him showing me that picture that changed everything for me. Now, 2 weeks later, our team had met with the U.S. Embassy, the Colombian federal agents. They provided a whole bunch of agents, 40 agents for us. 4 of them were our maids and our waiters and our cooks. They weren't very good cooks, but they were armed, right? And they almost blew the operation. They brought a big old block of cheese, put it there in the middle of the table or negotiating. No utensils, nothing to cut it with, no extra. I'm like, hey guys, we should fire our cooks and our waiters, right? And these guys showed up at the island with 54 children. We had 3 separate cities in one day. Ended up being the largest child rescue mission that we ever did, 127 children. I was sitting there at this chair. And in fact, put that black and white picture up. This is an actual picture from one of our undercover photos there. Right there in the white is Eduard. He had 14 children tied up at his place. By his elbow is Fuego. If you saw the movie, that was the one played by Manny Perez, he was a very evil man, one that took the kids and negotiated things between the people who bought the kids and ones who kidnapped them and whatnot. He gave this little boy, this 11-year-old boy, he gave him cocaine that morning because he was so scared it was going to hurt. What kind of monster thinks that that's attractive? He gets up and he says, Pablo, I have to show you the gifts that I brought you. He goes in the house and he comes back. As he was in the house, we could hear some of the children crying. They were so scared. 10 minutes later, he comes out and he has 4 of the virgins that he said he would bring. 3 little girls, 1 little boy. This little girl, the same one he showed me on the picture. In the movie, she wasn't at the island. In real life, she was there. In real life, the island was an entirely different country. We were looking for a little boy, not a little girl, dressed up as doctors. But she was there. There was tear stains on her makeup face. And I thought, dear God, why is this even a thing anywhere? And I made a commitment at that moment to myself, to God, to that child, that I was going to dedicate my life to eradicating that evil from the face of the earth. The most beautiful moment for me was after the agents came and stormed the party, arrested everybody. Child Protective Services people came in with the children. And they started laughing and singing with these children. And that sound of freedom was the most beautiful sound that I ever heard, especially compared to the crying that we heard less than half an hour before. I turned to the agent that was with me and I said, I've spent my whole life making money, making rich people richer. I want to make a difference. I want to make a big difference. I literally had, my son was looking at Aventador Lamborghinis with white, with convertible, with the doors that come up. I was going to buy one that spring. That was on my goal of, we'd accomplished plenty. It was time to buy a Lambo. And I told the agent, I said, I'm not buying that car. I want to write that check here instead. You tell me what I need to do. And he said, Paul, he said, I want to go public. I want to be on CNN, ABC, and be the face. He said, somebody needs to be here helping to run some of these. He said, a lot of this demand is coming from guys wear $50,000 watches, right? He said, sadly, there's a big demand that's in Latin America for people with big egos and big wallets. He said, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to negotiate a multi-million-dollar real estate deal. And he said, and I've never found an ultra-successful business owner who's had the training that you've had. Don't think you can go down to Colombia and go rescue kids. I have some special skills that keep me somewhat safe in a dangerous place. He said, if you're willing to be the bait, I'll change your whole life. And that was the beginning for me of a total transformation. I have led or played a key part in over 70 undercover rescue missions in 15 countries. And through the Child Liberation Foundation, you can put the slide back up so you can know how to get to it. Through the Child Liberation Foundation and others that we have helped to fund and others that I have helped to start, well over 7,000 victims have been recovered from trafficking. Soon after that mission, I did a bunch of others. And feel free to click on these and follow us and be a part of this. Take a picture of that screen. This is not something that we can do by ourselves. I'm looking for people that want to be freedom fighters, a percentage of their company, of their profits, helping to fight trafficking. So you can advertise it to your investors. Hey, this is what we're working on. We have this amazing team that we're together with, and we're eradicating this. And I was in Haiti. I'd done 12 rescue missions in that area. It was heavy. It was dark. Yeah, I went into a jungle dressed as a doctor, and things got dangerous. One of my operators, who was in the jungle with me, we lost him. I was at his funeral in Haiti when I met my dear wife. And I tell people meeting a beautiful Colombian actress is kind of cool, but when she's donating her time at an orphanage in Haiti, that's my girl. And soon after, I had been nominated to receive the International Medal of Freedom. No, it was the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. And she didn't have a gala dress. And so I took her to the store to go find a gala dress for her, and we were checking out. And she looks at the tag. It was about $2,000 dress. And she said, Paul, what's the average cost of rescuing a trafficked child? And I told her the average is about $2,000. She said, I'm not wearing a child. She said, you can buy me a $200 dress and let's donate the rest of the foundation. Now understand, before I met her, I had 10 bathrooms in my house. I had 8 private suites. I had 7 fireplaces, 3 kitchens. I had a basketball court in my basement, 2 helicopters, right? I was, living large. And she changed everything. We decided, you know what? We're going to not just help with the rescue missions. We're going to really make an impact. And about 4 years after we met, the movie went public. And now we spend full time helping to change laws and policies with countries all around the world, building healing retreats and safe houses for the children, and truly focusing on making an impact. Now, after 10 years of undercover work, working all around the world, I looked at the numbers and I realized that there's more children being sold today than there was 10 years ago. And I said to myself, Paul, if you made that commitment sitting there in front of that child 10 years ago, that you were going to eradicate this evil, if that was your goal, you're not doing a very good job, because there's more kids being sold today than ever before. So I had to ask myself, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? Yes, we're still funding operations. I don't do undercover anymore. I can't. We went public just right before the movie came out, and that's when I started speaking. In fact, one way that you can help is if you have any connections with conferences. I can speak for an hour on how to build a multi-billion-dollar real estate fund, and then they'll put me on stage that evening for a dinner gala, and we can raise a couple $100,000 to save kids. That's the perfect weekend for me, because it's going to make a huge difference in what we're doing. So if you have connections with people who have stages, and or if you have influencer connections, that would be huge, huge. You know, just having some podcast on with some good people, etc. So we looked at the numbers and realized that if we're going to make an impact, we've got to help humanity heal. Here's why. Every single time we pulled 20 children out of hell, there's another 20 plus children that were being sucked into the deepest recesses of the most disgusting things on this planet, because not enough was being done to take away the demand. And I found myself every single mission wishing that we had rescued those children before they're ever abused. And what does that look like? I mean, maybe a time machine, I could go back 5 years, 10 years and pull them out, or maybe even have a sit down with the traffickers and say, what is going on in your life that makes you think that in any way it's okay to take that road? Okay? Now, we don't have a time machine, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a pedophile sympathizer. I put my life in danger hundreds of times to ensure that they never hurt innocents again. However, the majority of them, if not all of them, suffered abuse as children. Over 70% of men who are incarcerated admit that they were abused as children. The average age of somebody remembering what happened when they were children is 52 years old. That's my age. And if people are holding on to that pain, in some cases it comes out in what I call trauma transfer. Now, the majority of them, and understand this, 1 out of every 4 people in this room was a victim of that kind of abuse as a child. It's horrific. And even if it doesn't come out, and God bless you guys who went through that and who are now protectors. The majority of people who went through that are protectors. However, it comes out in low self-esteem or anger, depression, anxiety, all of these issues. The company I sold when I was 29 years old, the one that helped launch the investment fund, et cetera. I sold it for $20 million. It was a company that helped people overcome anxiety, depression, PTSD, and addictions. It was a cognitive restructuring program that helped them break free of those, but it took 12 weeks and took a lot of coaching to help that happen. We've identified some things. I'm not going to talk about them on stage, but we have fully immersive, transformational healing retreats that we host in Latin America. They're 4 or 5 days at a time where people can come down. We've brought women who had 10 and 20 years worth of therapy that weren't helping them recover from what they dealt with as a child. We had men with alcohol addictions and pornography addictions and domestic abuse situations, etc., that we're helping them to heal as well. So whatever you do, let's identify ways that you can make a powerful, positive impact in the world. All of us together can make an impact. I can't do it by myself. Vanessa can't do it by herself. I want every one of you to be incredibly successful with what you're creating in your business. But if all you have is Lamborghinis and jets and everything else when you finish up, it's not going to make you happy. I had a beautiful talk with our friends from Venezuela last night. What amazing good they are doing with their money. Everybody needs to find something you're passionate about and decide today that you're going to make a powerful, positive impact in the lives of other people. Thank you for letting me share.